Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for spending some time with me again today on Innerviews. And I'm very excited because I'm having another conversation with Yoke Van Dam. And Yoke is a public speaking expert, I have to say, and one of the public speakers that I follow because I really admire the work she does. And she makes a lot of sense on a lot of topics. I've learned a lot from her, and today I'm going to share some of that learning with all of you. So today we're here to talk about that whole thing about how people, when we're online, when we first go onto social networks, sometimes we feel kind of anonymous, and we might say and do things in a way that we might later regret. So Yoke and I are here today to have a conversation about some of those things, how you can avoid them, and why it's important to avoid them. So Yoke, thank you so much for spending time with us today. And maybe you can tell those who are watching a little bit about your expertise in this field.
Thanks, Melanie. I also follow you on a content level. So I feel it's like two experts meeting together that really adds into each other's businesses. So thanks for all the beautiful work that you do. So I'm Yoke Van Dam. I'm from a company called Y Connect. I'm also a professional speaker. And what I really love doing is working with leaders and teams. And I help them uncover their purpose, find their flow, build their confidence so that they can influence better. That's really what my business is about in a nutshell.
Wow, and influence is a huge word these days. So what do you find are the core pillars of successful influence?
Successful influence is all about knowing yourself and what you want to get out of anything. So I was just shooting a video before we met about negotiation skills. I was offering a women in leadership program. And in that, I was teaching these women negotiation skills. And I was saying to them, whether you want to go to the movies, whether you want to get your kid in bed, whether you want to buy a car, sell a house, whatever we do, even if you're trying to get to hire someone in your business, it's all negotiation and influence. And if you're not doing the influencing, someone else is. So outside, I mean, if you're driving around, you see millions of billboards. But if we're in the content space right now, there are millions of adverts being served on Facebook, Instagram. So you're permanently getting, I mean, they're even picking up the words that you say, and the next moment you'll start getting, I don't know, shoe adverts, handbag adverts. I'm hoping Facebook is not listening right now so that now we're getting more shoe adverts, But the moment you say something, suddenly you see it everywhere. So influence is actually deciding what do you want to get out of life, and who are the people that are your allies that you can align with, but also looking at who are the people that are maybe adversaries who you could actually get on your side. And that could be in the content space, but also in the real life space. So those are just some of the areas that I would say that you could look at for influence. It is a major area. Yeah.
So how do you convert adversaries? That sounds like a very, very almost counterintuitive way of looking at things.
So what's interesting, there's this model that says you have your friends and your foes. So friends is people that will, apologies, they'll love you irrespective. So no matter what you do, they'll always just like follow you, or like they'll be there for you in your life, right? Foes are the people, no matter what you do, you will never get them on your side. So I'm sure even in the social media space, you'll have people that will always hate what you're putting out there. They'll just be a foe. While allies are the people whose goals are aligned to you, and they're actually the people that you partner with. While adversaries are the people that you can turn around there. How you, when you're looking at allies and adversaries, it's actually conditional love or hate if you think about it.
Yes.
So if you have an ally and suddenly your goals are no longer aligned, suddenly you might not actually want to continue that partnership. So I've actually seen community groups where partnerships where the goals weren't aligned anymore, where first the one party quit, started her own community,
Mm,
you know I'm talking about, and
mm,
then now even the other party is out of it as well
mm,
because their goals weren't aligned anymore.
mm,
So if you're looking at turning adversaries into allies, actually ask yourself, what do these people want in life, in their business, and how can I help them get them there? So can you align to their goals and show that you're a vehicle to
mm,
helping them
mm,
achieve their goals, and
mm,
suddenly you'll have an ally.
mm,
And
mm.
that's actually, I think, in many ways, in business, we need more allies, not more friends, because
Yes.
allies will push your business forward. Friends might just like it, but they will never actually introduce you to the clients that can actually give you the business. Well, the ally will strategically also look at your relationship and understand what doors they can open for you or what will be a win-win. So I see it
Yes.
as a very different thing, but you can have friends that are allies as well in
Yes.
business.
Yes. Yes. And are there any foes that you wouldn't want to convert?
Well, definitely. I think it's to do with your core values, right? So if
Okay.
you understand what are your boundaries, what is important for you in life, and you know that people that care about these and these things, um, which is really out of line for what is really important for you. So I'll give you a practical example. If someone is a racist, I don't want to lie to them. So
Mm,
that is like a core value for me. Inclusion, men and women,
mhm,
different, whatever you want to call yourself. I
mm,
don't want
mm,
to align with people that will exclude
mm.
at all. But it is, I mean, it is tricky. It is tricky to not exclude, because the moment you even say something is for women, then men feel excluded. So,
Correct.
but you have different markets, right?
Correct, correct. So I love where you're going with this conversation because I am fascinated. I'm absolutely fascinated with that inclusion exclusion line. Because as community managers, we want to welcome everybody in. And yet there's a point where for healthy inclusion, we have to begin excluding people for community safety. Uh,
Yes.
so then there's almost this point where we can no longer be inclusive as much as we'd like to, uh,
But
because
that's about boundaries.
yes,
So that's probably where your group rules come in, right?
yes,
And where people have to say that they're accepting those rules. And if they're now not adhering to those rules,
yes,
then you can give them another chance or reprimand them. But with a child, would you just leave them if they're keeping hitting their brother over the head, or if they like smashing in someone's face in the playground? Will you just forever say, no, it's okay, no, it's okay? If they keep on doing it, they will probably get expelled, right? So if you're thinking of almost like a principal's office, people are sending them into the principal's office, which is you, the community manager, and you can decide, is this detention? Is this, a written, you have to write out, you'll never do it again? Do you get smacked on the bum? Or, do you need to go pick up rubbish? Or like, what do you need to do to be allowed back? Or is this actually just not good for the school anymore, if you had to use that metaphor
Yes, so
in a way?
I'm giggling because I'm not sure how my community members who I've reprimanded will take being called children.
No, I get you. I get you. It's just a metaphor.
It's beautiful. I love it. Thank you. Thank you. And I have to think back to when I was younger. I once spoke to an industrial psychologist when I was in my 20s, and I said to her, "Do people ever grow up?" And she said to me, "I don't know, Melanie. I only know a bunch of wrinkled children."
I think our inner child really comes out. And I think a lot of people don't do the work, they don't get the healing. So I do a lot of coaching work with people to also like help them heal so that they don't have all of these triggers. And I think often in social media, it's actually people's hurts. Their hurts from childhood or whatever, that's where the rage comes out. They're not
Yes,
really mad at you, the community manager. They're
yes,
dealing with things and it's just a trigger.
yes,
So
yes,
that's where the community manager needs to find ways of actually calming them down or getting them offline so
yes,
that it's not this toxic environment, because
yes,
I hate toxic debates on social media. I
yes.
hate it, so I just don't engage with it. But I can imagine if you're running that group, you need to do something, right?
So, something very interesting happened in the development of the Upcycled Cloth Collective. There was a period in our
Mm,
growth where we were growing really fast, and where we were actually growing on negative engagement. There was
sure.
so much bickering going on in the group, and because
uh,
Facebook's algorithms couldn't differentiate between positive and negative, we were actually growing on that algorithm. And then
sure.
as we put measures in place to stop, to reduce the harm and the negativity, our numbers stopped growing, and we then flatlined for a year. We remained at the same numbers for a whole year after that event, when we shut down the negativity.
Sure. But how was the vibe in the group then?
It was horrible. It was horrible. I like,
No, after you remove people, did
oh,
it
much
like
better.
start improving? Did it start improving?
I've learned that block button is my friend. When I finally block them from everything, it goes quiet.
Okay. Yeah.
And I
Yeah, but
can get back to
it's
focus. You know, our community has an environmental cause and a social cause.
yes.
You know, the work we're doing is way more important than any individual in the system.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's your why.
Mm,
That's your purpose. So if people are not actually aligned to that, but also I think it also has to come into like your core values as the owner of that group or as the community manager, deciding what are the values that this group represents.
yes,
And what I say to companies always is, if your values can become behaviors, you can hold people accountable to values. So you could even put your core values in your like group rules to say this
yes,
is what our core values are and this is the behaviors that we encourage. And then when someone says, let's say, a negative remark or whatever, and let's say one of your values might be kindness,
yes,
to then say to them, Melanie, please remember that our core values are kindness. I
yes,
didn't feel that you were treating this person kindly. You were maybe truthful, but it was
yes,
hurtful in the process.
yes,
You know what I mean? So, in
yes.
that way, people kind of like connect the dots in their head. And yeah, that's one of the ways you can hold people accountable using values.
I love
What
that.
are your core values? Do you maybe have a few that you can think of that you could add
So,
to
so
this clothing community group?
so in our group, we do have core values. They are
Oh,
kindness,
awesome. Oh, wow. Look
reciprocation.
at me. What innovation.
No, reciprocation.
Oh, nice.
Yes, we put that one in there because without reciprocation, the system gets smaller. You can't just have people coming in and taking, taking, taking. Um, and
But it's
actually,
also,
you've caught
I
me
just want
because
to
I
add something.
can't roll the others off my tongue today. It's been a while since I've worked on them. I must go back to them.
So you can always, those can also be nice posts to
Mm,
do, or little videos about it, every value kind of thing, or
mm,
quizzes asking people about the values.
mm. I,
Because in general, people don't know their values of their business. It's a very well-known thing unless you're actually getting people to write tests like I had to do at some companies. We would
yes,
have to recite the vision and mission and we were held accountable to the values. It was this whole story, you know.
Yes. Yes.
Otherwise, I've never been at a company where people actually really know it. But I think if it becomes part of your accountability framework, that is much more impactful than people just reciting them. Like, who
Yes. Yes.
cares? You
Yes.
know, it's
So,
about using them.
so what was pure gold for me in what you just said earlier was if your values can become behaviors. So I've written that down. And I'm definitely going to use that in my team. Now, I realize we've gone a little bit off the plan here from what we were going to talk about,
Doesn't matter.
which is how people sometimes respond on social networks. Uh, have you seen some stories of some wild things that have happened? And do you have some tips in terms of reputation management? Because that really is your wheelhouse.
There are some some thought leaders in the speaking space that are they call themselves contrarian, like Alan Weiss. He will actually put out content that can actually like stir people up a little bit, but that is his style and that works for him in his videos. Even if you read his book, you actually feel convicted, you know, but he's always trying to put things out there that can be contrary to what everyone thinks, to kind of like stir the pot. Then you get people like Graham Cotrington, who will engage rapidly with people on social media and sometimes be quite argumentative. But that's also his brand, and he's okay with that. For me, it feels like it can get into very toxic conversations, you
Mm,
know, where people just go off the railroad. So, what I personally believe is you need to decide what is your brand and your style. But if you are engaging with a community, like the words of Maya Angelou said, people will forget what you said and what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel.
mm,
So if you're actually directing your content, your engagement to making people feel included, safe, and even if you use those words in what you put out there, I believe that you will actually get a much greater feeling and response in people in the future to want to stay in that community and not immediately go into negativity. So,
mm,
like at the moment, I think in South Africa, people tend to get onto the negative spiral. I don't know if you've seen this, Melanie, especially on
mm,
social media.
mm,
So, where people will freak out over load shedding, the government, and I would
mm,
definitely say it's things outside of your control. You can only control so much of it, and they would get into road rage.
mm,
So, what I would say is try to focus on what's in your own control. And if things happen outside of your control, how can you spin it around? Can you actually say, reframe it into the positive? So,
mm,
in my course last week, where I was teaching the ladies, I'll give you a practical example. It was I was coaching a sales team, and this guy was in Durban. And we walked into a dealer principal, you know, car dealership. And I was working at Auto Trader at that time. They were selling advertising space. And this this person just freaked out and he was like, I hate your company and I just want to cancel everything. And he was quite irate, you know. So if you're thinking in the social media space, that often happens.
mm,
So our brain can't hear the word not. So I repeated his words back to him, but reframed it into the positive. So instead of saying, I can see you're frustrated, angry, and want to cancel, I said, I can see you're not happy right now. You're wondering if you want to continue business with us. But what I want to do is find the solutions, and we're here. So please tell us all the challenges you have so we can iron it out. And immediately in his brain, I was actually telling him, continue doing business with us, be calm, let's sort out the issues.
mm,
While if I
mm,
was focusing just on the negative words,
mm, mm,
it would have told his brain there's no other option but to cancel.
mm, mm,
So in my EQ training, I always say to people, especially if you're dealing with kids or like this negotiation skills training was inspired by an FBI agent that was negotiating with hostages. So I think often in social media, it could almost be like this terrorist situation. If you're thinking it can get really toxic. It's almost like there's guns involved. If you're thinking the way people are reacting, they're holding hand grenades and it can spiral very quickly. So in that situation, instead of saying, don't shoot, don't let the bomb go off or whatever, in that situation, it's like, please hand me the gun or put down the gun safely, or don't you want to have a sip of tea? You're giving them different options than just the thing. You're actually distracting the person away from the negative thing. So yeah, so it's a stupid thing, but like, if you don't want people in a training course to share your material, don't say to them, don't share it. Now you've given them the idea to share it.
Yes.
If you rather say, please remember, this is confidential for your eyes only. Please save it on your computer safely so other people can't access it. You're actually saying to them what you want. You're not encouraging them to do what you don't want. So in the same way,
I love
in social media. Did I get into your second question was reputation? Do you want to delve a bit more into that?
Absolutely. If you've got energy to go there, yes.
Yeah. What do you mean? Can you just elaborate a little bit more on what you want to know?
How do you feel that a brand could best represent themselves on social media, if reputation is very important to them?
Such a cool question. So I was so
And we've only got 10 minutes.
Okay, no, I'm gonna jump into it. I just want to say I did a training on personal brand the other day, and in this research on personal brand, they were actually saying your personal brand's actually online reputation. So exactly what you're saying now. So you need to ask yourself, what do you want your audience to think about you, your brand? How do you want them to feel, and what do you want them to do? And can you guide your actions in that way for everything that you do, whether it's the way you're reprimanding someone, how you're engaging with the content, whatever you do, guide it, be very intentional about what do you want your reputation to be about. Because years later, even in your personal brand, if you're posting photos that are not professional, like my sister was saying, there's still photos of Kate, William's wife, from when she was a student in her bikini that was removed, but they will still bring it up years and years and years later, flashing her image now as the future queen. So you never know if you're going to get into royalty. I'm just kidding. But be careful.
Chances are good.
Be careful whatever you put up there, because even if you remove it, people have probably already taken screenshots of it or photos. Be very intentful with whatever you put out there, whether it's in your own personal brand or on a community page, because people are still seeing your face behind it if they can see that you linked to that community page. Because people tend to remove themselves, and they tend to think no one can see it. So my sister used to work at a major bank in social media many years ago on the social media content management side. And she was telling me stories of people that swore at her, but actually at the bank, people that we know in our friendship circles. And she said she can't believe that these people are doing it to themselves. So you might be thinking you're really furious with Eskom or Telkom or Vodacom, but guess what? There's a person on the other side, and it's really reflecting badly on you. So if you want to fight, don't do it on social media. Go yell into your pillow, like book a coaching session, see a counselor, go for a walk. There's a lot of techniques I can give you to calm yourself down, but don't take it out on the audience. It would be really, really bad for your brand. you and me spoke about that a little while ago,
Mm.
and you asked me to change the word from, I'm just gonna say it, from vomit to bleed. Why would you say, is it important the choices of words that you use?
Um, yes, I'm learning because online communication, you've got so few words to work with. If they aren't specific, uh, people will answer what you've specifically said. So you have to be very specific about what words you've selected. Like you might think, well, my friend Angie said it perfectly the other day. What was it? Is what you think you've heard what I think I've told you?
So what was very interesting, Melanie, so I changed it and then I kept it like that. But I had so many people actually, I even had a lady calling me to talk about the article and the impact it had on her in the
Really?
real estate industry. I had she said to me that potentially the person that I spoke about might have read my article and then actually wrote a post on Facebook explaining his behavior, not addressing my article, but actually saying he's been in a very negative space and has realized that he's been almost taking it out and bringing it to an audience in the public speaking space.
Yes.
So, what was interesting from her point of view is she said she immediately got the word vomit, but the people after that, when I changed it to bleed, their meaning was completely different. They
Okay.
saw it more as pain. They saw it more as crying. So the one
Ah,
girl spoke about
okay.
weight loss, how she went
Okay.
through, she lost 82 kgs, and
Okay.
she did a Facebook video and she said she bled on the audience. But then I responded and said, I think what you're saying is you were being vulnerable and real, but your message was still to inspire, uplift, and motivate people, even if they're going through those troubles.
Yes.
While in my environment, what I was saying about this public speaker was if you don't manage your own state and you're in a very negative state and you just, so I use the word vomit and then later bleed, you just basically throwing it out on the audience, whatever you're feeling, and you're not very intent in, like you don't have the right intent about how professional you want to be or what do you want to bring across. It could actually spiral the negativity in the room to a really bad space. So
Yes.
I was inspired many years ago by Mark Brown when he visited South Africa. I think in like 1995, he won the World Championships of Toastmasters. They always use his voice. They call him the voice of God at the World Champs.
Yes.
And he said, you have a privilege of the platform. Don't abuse it.
Yes. 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 I love that. You have the privilege of the platform. Don't abuse it. Those are golden words to end on. Thank you. You have added so much value once again. I can't wait to share this video with everybody. Thank you so much. That was awesome. And thank you to all of you who are watching. It is our privilege to have your eyes on our content today. Thank you for spending time with us.
Thank you, Melanie.